What's up guys, Kyron Dudebro here, and we're going to be talking about Ino, learning how to deal with her so we don't get blown up online, or if you just have a lack of knowledge, you want to learn how to deal with the character. This is the video, so let's not waste any time, let's get right into it. First things first, Ino has low life. She has the 5th smallest life bar in the game, being on top of Axel, Zato, Milia, and Chip. So if you're able to maximize your biggest damage, she's gonna eat that. Not the most optimal combo, but you get the idea. She's gonna be eating a lot of damage, unlike the characters above her, and you want to optimize that damage very well. Her next issue is the fact that she has a 5 frame. 5 frame jab is the second slowest jab in the game, the slowest being 6 frames. This is a problem because when it comes to getting out of pressure where she just want to mash out, because of the fact she has a 5 frame, there's cases where she just have to take that. It doesn't make it any better that her crouching jab has almost little to no range, on top of it not being anything slower, faster than like a 5 frame. Like, it has almost no range. That's a big problem, especially when it has to dealing with pressure. So she will have to be forced to just universally use the system mechanics, jumping, backdash, use whatever tool she has, but she can't simply jab unless your pressure has big gaps into them. The next issue she has is, like, she's not privileged with a meterless reversal. Characters like Soul, Kai, Anji has a parry. Giovanna doesn't technically have a DP, but it shrinks her hitbox really low. So they have moves like that where they can deal with pressure and get their turn back. Ino doesn't have that at all. She has no option to get her turn back. She would have to pray and hope, maybe for like a 6P if you mess up, or just rely on super. That's the wrong one. That's the only time she can actually genuinely get her turn back, unless she does yellow RC. Her next problem, albeit unique towards her, is still a huge problem, and that's the fact that she does not have a universal run. Characters like Soul, Kai, or a lot of the cast, they can get out of a situation, just get in easily just by simply dashing in, dashing in the air. It's universal for the most part of the cast that can just get in really easy. Ino, on the other hand, doesn't have that. She has to hover. So there's a lot of scenarios where a situation where you can just get out of, rough spaces, you can do that easily. Ino can't. If she dashes in the air, she goes diagonally backwards. If she dashes backwards, same case. It's really awkward for her to get her placement in without taking a sort of risk, unfortunately. Here's like a good example of, like, if anyone just threw like an air fireball, for example. Let's just say theoretically someone messed it up, you can just run. You can just, regardless, you can just run, get out of there. Ino can't. She'll just be dashing towards the opponent in that situation. So I like, a good example that we can use. Now next we can talk about is her chemical love, the meme itself, the actual meme. This move has a very high hitbox, and because of its high hitbox, it can be ducked. Or even better, you can just run towards it and it won't hit you. No matter what you're doing, you just be running towards her and it will not hit you. It also has a very strange hitbox as well, where at certain range you can challenge it. And because it's such a high attack, you can just almost freely 6P it. There'll be scenarios where the move won't even hit you because you're intangible via high attacks. And what makes it even funnier is the fact that Giovanna can just be standing idly and the move won't even hit her. Even when she's just doing her jumping pose like that, it will not hit her no matter what she's doing. What makes it even funnier, which makes his move a lot worse in this matchup, is Giovanna can simply walk. She can just walk and the move will whiff. So it's a very bad move towards her, on top of the other options that Giovanna has. Next, we can talk about her Super Ultimate Fortizio. That can be interrupted. Now, this is a very tricky thing to deal with. A lot of people tend to not punish this move because when you block the first attack, you can interrupt it before the second hit comes out. The problem, though, is if you allow her, she is super plus and she can just get her turn back. Never let that happen. It can be interrupted, so if you see that, interrupt her. Do whatever you can. That is not free. That is not free. For her, I should say. It's not free for her, it's free for us. Now, the next thing we can talk about is her poor offense. And I say poor because once you begin to see it and actually know what's going on, you can then see the big picture of the problem that this character has, which is fake pressure. She has fake pressure. It seems similar to Milia, where, you know, hard knockdown set up into, you know, high-low mix-up, but unlike Milia, Ino's is fake, and we can walk you through it to show you why. Alright, we can start off with this. I'm sure a lot of people have saw this before. Now, here's the interesting part. If she gets hard knockdown and then does her fireball, the first part of that is true. You actually have to guess if she's gonna go high or she's gonna go low. However, if she tries to go for a second dash, her pressure is no longer void. It can be interrupted. It could be jabbed, it could be 6P'd, it could be whatever. That's fake. After the first dash, you have to guess that. If she decides to dash a second time, you can always challenge that. Now, she can always have the option to try to mix you up after the first dash, or during the first dash, correction. And so she doesn't always have to go for the overhead. She can try to go for the empty jump low, and then which will lead into another fireball. Interesting enough, that is also fake. It can be grabbed. If you think that she's going to do an empty jump low, you can always challenge with a grab. Now, you should be wary of doing this option because she does have counterplay to this. If you think, or you're guessing that she's going to do the empty jump low, and she thinks you're going to try to grab her, she can always do her 6 heavy slash. Next, if you do see her try that setup, and if she does the dust, that is something that is very common. It would be something like this. And then she just does that and you just get schmixed. Once again, it is fake. If you see her perform the dust, you should always jab. And even if you block it, it could just be interrupted. If you see the dust, it can be interrupted. 6P, jab, 3-frame kick, whatever. You have options. That is fake. You should not let her get away with that. Next is something that you're going to be encountering a lot, which is Ino's sultry performance. Now, her sultry performance, which is this move, is a very common tool you'll see. The interesting thing is that it's -7. both the heavy slash and the slash version, or the kick version technically, are unsafe. That is the kick version. And that one's -7. Do not let them get away with that. Not at all. The charge version, however, is not -7, but they are still unsafe. This one's a little tight, but they're actually around -4. So even if you don't get your punish, you can still, their turn is over. They're not plus on this. And that applies to the the slash version too. Slash version is also -7. And the charge one, just as well, -4. Or somewhere around -4. Now we can even get to the more interesting thing, which is something like this when you see them do the jump cancel. This one would be catching people all the time because they'll do the jump cancel and hit you with some weird overhead mix-up to, you know, continue their pressure. But just like the other pressure tools she had prior to this, it is fake. If you see her do the hop, you get your punish. Her turn is over. Her pressure is not real. You can challenge those. Do not let her get away with those. Next, which is a huge issue for her, is that her anti-depressant scale, or fireball, as good as it is, she cannot throw this move out in neutral. She cannot. A more seasoned player is going to see that and they will just counterplay it very hard. A lot of characters in the game has counterplay options to this. Soul in particular, Vortex. I won't go through the entire cast because you essentially immediately know, but you know, Soul has Vortex. You know, Ino can do Stroke the Big Tree. Anji can do his spin. Zato Reflector. Leo's Heavy Fireball. Mei Mr. Dolphin. The list just goes on. Many characters can just not out-prioritize, but have counterplay to this because of the long startup this has. Look how long that is. If I wanted to, I can just do that just by seeing it. Now mind you, I'm not saying a Soul player will do that, but I'm just saying based off of experience, if I reacted to that, I could just do that. Now, some people will say they will do it in the air, but the problem is it's not going to change anything. Even if you Tiger Knee it, you'll still have that long recovery, even if you do it in the air. So the whole problem that she has will, you know, still plays a big factor. She can't use that move in neutral because of the long startup. So if you do see that, you immediately punish her for that. Don't let her run free for this. Now we can speak about the biggest culprit in her move list, Stroke the Big Tree. This move is actually a low. Even though it doesn't look like it's a low, it's a low. And if you get hit by it, you have to mash the attack button to regain your composure or your footing. Now, here is something really interesting, however. Stroke the Big Tree S, the fast version that you see, is -7 actually. However, even though it's -7, it's actually very difficult to punish because of this distance between you and her. Even when Soul's fastest option, it doesn't reach her because of the spacing. However, even if that's the case, her turn is over. Her turn is over. She can't press a button after that. Her turn is actually over. she would be forced to just backdash or do something when it comes to scenarios like that. Now, that doesn't mean that she has something to mix you up with that. That's why she has the heavy slash version. The heavy slash version, albeit has slower startup, but it's +2 on block. So if she wanted to continue her pressure, she can do that. But even that one has holes in its options. You see, because of the long startup, it can be grabbed. It can also be interrupted. However, don't try to use your other options. This is me trying to use well, not that, but this is me trying to use Far Slash, and it just missed. Or me trying to do 6S, it misses as well. And because this move will go under a lot of buttons in this game, so you have to be real careful. It'll be best to use like your 2K or your sweep. That will get the job done. Now, another thing that you can do actually is jump out of it. You can actually jump out of her pressure. It will leave her with a choice to throwing out a button. Now, what's also pretty interesting is even though that you can jump out of it, she can just do something different. She can do it again. And you can backdash it too. If you block the first time and she tries to continue her pressure, you can just backdash. Now, why would you want to backdash? Well, I can show you in a second right now. Now, there are pretty good reasons why you will want to backdash it if you fail to grab it or interrupt the move and you blocked it instead. Her being plus is actually not that very scary because you have counterplay to that. For starters, like I was mentioning earlier, you can backdash. If you backdash, none of her buttons will reach you. None of them will. As shown right here, that can happen. You can also jump. However, if you jump at that moment, her 5K will jail you in the air. Be careful though. If she decides to do 2S, and if you backdash a little late, it will catch you. That's me failing it. Like that. Even still, she doesn't get that much reward unless she's willing to spend RC. Now, what makes it even more interesting is if she commits to do 2 of those. As I shown before, if you block it, you can backdash, and it will just reset things back to the same. However, it's still in your favor. She will still have to overcommit to do something to get her pressure and get some sort of reward. If she decides to do 2 of those, you can jump. You can jump out of there. Or you can just neutral jump. You can also just back jump. Or if you already know that's going to happen, you can just simply grab her. Or if you want to get fancy, you can blue RC. That's if you're looking to get fancy. If you get her to be really scared, then you'll force her to do something like this. Now she's going to be using the fast version, and you really want that to happen. If she commits to doing the fast version, you're now getting your turn back because she's -7 on block. And even with that one, it can be jumped by going forward. They can still be grabbed. However, you cannot interrupt this. Well, I guess you can. Crazy enough. But I wouldn't recommend doing that because of the nature of how fast that comes out. I would preferably think you want to grab that instead. Now, if you scare her out, very well, then she will end up just doing S. That's where you get win condition. I forgot to mention that the S version beats backdash. So be wary of that. But if you get her to do the S version, you're making her commit to doing something very unsafe because you shut down all the options that the heavy slash can do. So you already on your way a win condition. And you can easily just get your turn back. Now next is her heavy slash, her 6H. 6HS. Now if you do see that move in her pressure, immediately go with the knowledge that her pressure is going to end. It's going to end. She doesn't have many options after that. The only thing she can do is she can overcommit to do fireball, which again is very dangerous at that moment. And you stroke the big tree S and stroke the big tree heavy slash. Which we already went through what you can do with those. And she can also, which will probably never happen, also use that. Mind you, I think it's mediocre in this situation, but if you just kept ducking, you can always get your punish if you can. So if you're able to recognize that she's going to do 6 heavy slash, always be ready that her pressure is over. However, be mindful that if rounds start, this move is very powerful. It has a really wide hitbox. The only issue is the fact that it has long startup, so be careful on that. It will anti-air at very few situations, and God forbid if you get hit by this. It creates a lot of spacing too. Essentially, that is about it that I can tell you. So for you to understand that you practically start winning the game is if you see them do something like this. Once you get them doing this or doing just this, you win the game. You won the game when they start just doing this. Because you shut down all their options. What are they gonna do? They can't do that because that's fake. They can't do any of that because that's fake, or this. That all has, counterplay. Can't throw fireball from neutral. The real knowledge you need to know is just play neutral against her. If you play neutral, you essentially win the game. Because she doesn't have really good buttons. She has her 5K, she has 2K, 5S is not really used as often. Her 2S is alright. 2 heavy slash is actually has a disjointed hitbox. It hits farther than what it looks. And then you have 6H. Other than that, that's like her main neutral tools. Everything else is mediocre. And even if she does use them, she has problems with the Gatlings that it goes into, which leads into mainly just this, into whatever options we went through already. But with that being said, that is all I can provide with you guys so far. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. If this will help you in the near future, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, get ready for more Guilty Gear or fighting game nonsense in the near future. If you didn't like it, hit the dislike button, let me know, and I will see you guys next time. Kyron Dudebro out. Do take care.